Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I still remember the way Mom introduced us at family events. "This is Jessica," she'd say, arm proudly around my sister's shoulder. "She's going to change the world. Wharton-bound, science fair finalist, National Honor Society. You name it." Then her voice would dip a few notches, and she'd gesture vaguely at me. "And this is Ryan. He's good with computers. Likes to tinker." I'd just stand there, hands in my hoodie pockets, trying not to roll my eyes. "My name's Ryan. I'm 30 now. I live in Columbus, Ohio." But back then, I was just the techie kid in the basement, the one with wires everywhere, solder burns on his fingers, and no clear direction. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Jessica and I were only 2 years apart, but we might as well have been raised in different households. She had the medals, the perfect GPA, the speech trophies. Every school board meeting, every science fair, she was front and center. Me, I was the weird kid piecing together broken laptops for fun, teaching myself Python while the rest of the family watched Jeopardy! When I built my first website at 15, it was for a local plumbing company. Paid me $200. I was pumped. Mom barely looked up from her emails when I told her, "That's nice, honey. Just make sure you don't fall behind in school." Jessica could spill vinegar on baking soda, and Mom acted like she split the atom. Senior year, I landed a few regular freelance clients. I was pulling in a couple grand a month, more than enough for a used car and my own gear. Still, no one cared. Jessica got into Wharton, early decision, and Mom practically threw a parade. I got accepted to a decent regional university for software engineering. Dad said, "That's good too, son," then asked if I'd considered transferring later. Every holiday dinner turned into Jessica's personal press conference. "Did you see her latest article in the Student Journal? She's interning with McKinsey this summer. They're already scouting her for leadership fellowships." Meanwhile, I was rebuilding enterprise dashboards for mid-sized hospitals and getting paid real money. But if I mentioned work, the conversation changed real quick. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. Why bother? I learned to smile, nod, and disappear into the background. It was easier than trying to prove myself. Let Jessica have the spotlight. I didn't need it. I had something better. I had patience and a long memory. 2 months after Jessica walked across that Wharton stage, she announced the launch of her startup, Luminate Analytics, AI-powered decision software for enterprise risk modeling. Sleek, vague, overhyped. But damn if she didn't sell it like gospel. Mom called it genius. Dad said she was ahead of her time. They threw her a launch party at this rooftop bar downtown. Lights, a catered spread, rented photographers, even a step-and-repeat banner like it was a movie premiere. Every family member within driving distance showed up dressed to impress. "She's going to change the way companies think," Dad said during his toast. "Jessica isn't just starting a company, she's leading a movement." I stood near the back in a button-down shirt I hadn't ironed, sipping flat ginger ale, trying not to laugh. That same week, I opened my own business. Nothing flashy, just an LLC, a one-page site, and a 6-month contract with a healthcare network that needed custom system integration. I had 4 clients before I even finished the damn website. Not a single person in the family asked what my company was called. When I brought it up to Mom, just mentioned I'd gone full-time, she smiled and said, "That's good, honey." Everyone needs a side hustle these days. A side hustle? I was billing $150 an hour and solving real infrastructure problems for clients with 5,000 employees. But sure, let's call it a hobby. Meanwhile, Jessica was all over LinkedIn, articles, podcasts, think pieces. She got profiled in the Columbus Innovator, a 4-page spread with a photo of her in a blazer, arms crossed, fake laughing next to a whiteboard filled with jargon. "You should learn from your sister," Dad said. "She knows how to play in the big leagues." Play. That's what they thought I was doing. I drove a 10-year-old Corolla with peeling tint. Jessica had a leased Tesla with the company logo wrapped across the doors. Every time she pulled into the driveway, Mom would beam like royalty had arrived. "Look at her," she'd whisper, "a real businesswoman." They didn't see me up late writing code, juggling contracts, keeping teams in sync across different time zones. They didn't see me meeting with CIOs or sitting in on budget meetings at hospitals where one system error could cost lives. Jessica hired a dozen people right out the gate: engineers, marketing, sales, a personal assistant. She paid for a downtown office space with glass walls and catered lunches. I worked out of my spare bedroom and never missed a deadline. But that didn't matter. In our family, image beat substance. And Jessica had image locked down. At Thanksgiving, Aunt Denise asked if I was still messing around with websites. I run a software consulting firm, I said. I help large healthcare organizations integrate complex systems. She blinked. Oh, so like tech support, Jessica cut in. Ryan's great with fixing stuff. He's always been our little MacGyver. Everyone laughed. Later, I watched Dad corner Jessica in the living room. Fortune 500 companies, Jess. That's where you're heading. I can see it. I just hope your brother finds his lane too. I said nothing, just nodded like always. They didn't know I was reviewing acquisition offers from 2 regional competitors. They didn't know I'd just signed a 3-year retainer with a firm in Chicago that was rolling out EHR upgrades statewide. But I didn't correct them. I'd learned by now. Nobody listens when their mind's made up. Let them believe she was building the future. I was busy building power. By year 2, Jessica's golden rocket ship started leaking fuel. Her team was bloated. Her burn rate was insane, and not a single real client had signed a long-term contract. The AI demo she built for the launch, mostly smoke and mirrors, a polished front end tied to open source models. All flash, no foundation. But that didn't stop her from hiring a full-time brand manager and blowing $20,000 a month on catered lunches. Investors noticed. Fast. Some politely bowed out, citing timing concerns. Others ghosted her altogether. The buzz faded. Her LinkedIn feed turned quiet. Her face got tighter every time someone asked about traction. Then one of her early angels went public in a blog post, saying the company lacked clear monetization strategy. It made the rounds. Her inbox turned cold. She needed a miracle, and I gave her one. Behind the scenes, I controlled a small but potent venture capital firm. Clean structure, good track record, serious network. I'd set it up 2 years earlier with 2 close friends, both former engineers with finance chops. We operated quiet, strategic, and anonymous when we wanted to be. So when Luminate Analytics needed cash to survive, I made the call. We structured the deal through 3 shell layers and a holding company. Clean, legal, tight. I funneled in $120 million under the name Halcyon Orbit Ventures, a firm Jessica had never heard of. But that sounded important enough to impress her board. My guys played the front, slick suits, real experience, all the right lingo. They came in hot with a convertible equity deal, complex valuation terms, and heavy voting rights buried deep in the agreement. Jessica didn't blink. She signed. She celebrated. She thought she'd made it. A month later, we met up at Mom's house for Sunday dinner. She walked in like she owned the place, heels clicking, hair perfectly done, holding a bottle of overpriced red wine like she was on her 3rd IPO. I just closed a major round, she said loud enough for the whole room. 9 figures, institutional backing, real capital from real people. I was slicing green beans in the kitchen. She didn't even look at me. Not all money is equal, she added. You need serious people to scale serious ideas. Mom lit up. Jessica, that's incredible. Do they have a name? She smiled. Halcyon Orbit, elite firm. They get it. They actually understand innovation. Dad clapped her on the back like she'd just solved climate change. Now that's how you build a legacy, he said. Take notes, Ryan. I just nodded and kept slicing. For the next few months, Jessica couldn't shut up about her new partners. She bragged about calls with their managing director. She told anyone who'd listen that her board now had real Silicon Valley presence. She dropped phrases like scaling responsibly and long-term strategic alignment. The best part, my friends played their roles to perfection, showed up to meetings in hoodies and sneakers, asked just enough questions to seem engaged, and let her talk herself in circles. They called her founder material. She lapped it up. One time at dinner, she raised a glass and said, "Some people build tools, others build empires. I'm just grateful my investors see the difference." She looked right at me when she said it. I raised my glass too, didn't say a word. Behind the scenes, I reviewed every expense report, every hiring decision, every monthly burn report. I sat on the board under an alias. I had full control. She didn't have a clue. She kept pushing product features that didn't work, marketing fluff over substance, chasing headlines instead of results. But I let it ride. I wanted her to feel invincible, because the higher she flew, the harder the drop was going to hit, and I wasn't done setting the stage. It was a Saturday night at Mom and Dad's house, the kind of family dinner where everyone squeezed around the long oak table and passed dishes like they were at a church potluck. I'd barely set my plate down when Jessica swept in, late as usual, still wearing her summit badge like it was a medal. "Sorry, I'm late," she announced. "Flight delays, but totally worth it. They named me a top female innovator at the Entrepreneur Futures Summit." She dropped her purse on an empty chair and pulled out a glossy plaque. Mom gasped like she'd just seen gold. "Oh my God, Jess!" "That's incredible," Mom said, standing to hug her. "We're so proud of you." Jessica grinned, then launched into her speech. "You know what they kept saying at the summit," she said, picking up a bread roll like it was a microphone. "Real businesses need institutional capital, vision, professional investors who can push you to scale." She sliced her eyes toward me while she spoke. "You can't fake real business," she added, pausing long enough for the table to catch the dig. Dad chuckled. Aunt Denise gave a little, like she was at a sermon. Jessica leaned back in her chair. "Ryan, you're smart, but it's time to be honest with yourself. Those little code things you do, that's not how you build something that lasts. That's tinkering. Play money." The whole table erupted in polite laughter, the kind that pretends to be good-natured but lands like a slap. I didn't laugh. I kept my fork in my hand and my eyes on my plate. My pulse was steady, my jaw tight. She went on. "I mean, there's no shame in side projects. Everyone starts somewhere. But at some point, you need to step up or step aside. Real growth takes real backing." Dad clapped her on the shoulder, spoken like a true leader. Mom smiled at me from across the table, a little pity in her eyes. "Ryan, maybe you should pick Jessica's brain. She knows what works." I swallowed a bite of cold green beans. "I'm good, Mom," I said. Jessica smirked. "Suit yourself. But when you're ready to stop playing around, let me know. I can introduce you to people who do this for real." Everyone chuckled again. Something shifted in me then. It wasn't rage. It wasn't jealousy. It was like a switch clicked. I set my fork down and leaned back in my chair, just enough to feel the distance. I didn't say another word the rest of dinner. I let them talk, let Jessica hold court like a queen, let Dad refill her wine glass while she bragged about her new market strategies, an executive advisory board. But in my head, the decision had already been made. When dessert came, I excused myself early. "Got some work to finish," I said, pushing back from the table. Nobody stopped me. That night, in my home office, the only light was from my monitor. I opened the secure messaging channel with my partners at Halcyon Orbit and typed out the order like it was just another task. Begin full withdrawal. Site mismanagement. Lack of sustainable revenue. Execute within 7 days. I hit send. The message disappeared into encryption. The act was over. Monday morning, I logged in, confirmed the legal docs were ready, and hit send. The $120 million withdrawal order went out at 9:14 a.m. sharp. The reason box read exactly what it needed to. Ongoing mismanagement and no credible strategy for sustainability. By Tuesday afternoon, I got the call. "Ryan," Jessica said, voice tight, "something's wrong. Halcyon just gave notice they're pulling out. No meeting, no heads up. Just done." I leaned back in my chair, glanced at the line graph on my screen tracking her cash reserves. Wow, maybe it's the quarterly numbers. I mean, things have been rough across the board, right? "They've seen the numbers," she snapped. "They approved the Q2 projections. This is out of nowhere. I've emailed 3 times. Nothing." I let the silence hang. "Something doesn't add up," she muttered, almost to herself. "This kind of pullout doesn't happen overnight." "I don't know," I said. "Maybe they saw something we didn't." She didn't respond, just hung up. Wednesday morning, 8 a.m., the board met. My partners dialed in from our Manhattan office, suits on, cameras lit, all business. Jessica came in hot. She had a deck ready, slides prepped, even a couple last-minute revenue projections printed out like that was going to fix anything. "Before we begin," she started, breath sharp, "I'd like to address the withdrawal notice. I assume there's been some mistake." "There's no mistake," my lead partner said, cool and flat. "Our position was reevaluated over the last quarter. We no longer believe in the business model." "Based on what?" she fired back. "You signed off on our roadmap. You praised the new hires. You told me we had long-term alignment." "Jessica," the other partner cut in, We've poured over every report. Your CAC is through the roof. Your product market fit doesn't exist. You're burning cash at a rate that guarantees failure by end of year. That's growth phase spending, she snapped. You knew that going in. The room was dead quiet. My guy just stared. This isn't growth. This is erosion. She slammed her hand on the table. This company is one client away from a breakthrough. You walk now, you're tanking that future and your own investment. They didn't flinch. We've seen enough. A long pause. Jessica sat down, eyes fixed on the center of the table. This isn't over, she muttered. I can replace you. You can try, my partner said, standing. But we own the majority equity now, and our terms are final. She didn't move. They left. I got the recap from my guys 30 minutes later. It's done, the lead partner said. She didn't see it coming. She never did. By that afternoon, the ripple hit. Slack messages, whispers, sudden meetings. I heard from one of her junior engineers, someone I used to mentor years ago, that the office felt like a funeral. Half the team had already updated their LinkedIns. Jessica texted me again that night. Everything's falling apart. Nobody's telling me the truth. I stared at the message for a second, then typed back, that's rough. Maybe there's still time to turn it around. She replied instantly. They lied to me, said they were committed. Who are these people? I didn't answer. The next morning, I got word her CFO resigned. The head of product followed. Legal started reviewing severance packages. Meanwhile, I sat at my desk, same coffee mug in hand, going over a new proposal for a hospital software upgrade. The silence from her end got longer. I knew she was unraveling, and the truth was just starting to crawl toward her. By Friday morning, it was everywhere. Jessica's company was crumbling, and the news hit our family group chat like a fire alarm. Mom texted first, something's going on with Jessica's investors. Everyone come to the house Sunday. We need to talk. She didn't ask, she summoned. Sunday afternoon, the living room felt like a war room. Relatives packed the couches and folding chairs. Cousin Pete drove in from Dayton. Aunt Linda brought her iPad and a legal pad like she was prepping a rescue mission. Jessica sat on the love seat, shoulders slumped, dark circles under her eyes. The fire was gone. She looked like she'd aged 5 years since Wednesday. They blindsided me, she said, voice brittle. We were expanding, scaling. They didn't even let the quarter finish. Mom was pacing behind the couch, wringing her hands. There has to be something we can do. They invested once. Maybe if they understood your long-term vision, they'd come back. They understood, Jessica snapped. They just panicked. Idiots with money and no patience. Dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What do you need? How much? We can pull together some cash. Retirement accounts, loans. We'll figure it out. Uncle Ken nodded. I know a guy in venture. I can reach out tomorrow. See what he thinks. Jessica forced a weak smile. I appreciate it. But I don't need charity. I need someone with real resources. Someone who knows the space. Someone who can stabilize things before the board forces me out. She scanned the room slowly, making eye contact with each person like she was casting a net. When her eyes landed on me, I knew what was coming. She gave this little head tilt, like she was speaking to a student who didn't understand the assignment. This isn't something someone like you can help with, Ryan, she said gently. I mean, you're great with code, I know that, but this is bigger. No one said a word. Mom glanced at me like she wanted to apologize but couldn't quite bring herself to do it. I kept my face still. What makes you think I can't help? Jessica gave a tight, pitying smile. It's not personal. You're just not in this world. This isn't freelance sites and apps for dentists. This is real scale, real capital, real stakes. Dad cleared his throat. Jess, don't be rude. Ryan's done well for himself. Maybe he knows someone who can make a call. Jessica's voice stayed calm, but her words cut. That's sweet, Dad. But right now, I need heavyweights, not hobbyists. That was it. She'd lost control, burned her money, drove her company into the dirt, and somehow still thought I didn't belong at the table. I nodded once. Got it. She turned away like the conversation was over, but it wasn't. I sat there while the rest of the family tried to solve the crisis, like it was a puzzle they just hadn't cracked yet. Contacts, bridge loans, press damage control. Jessica floated ideas like a CEO, still pretending to run the show. But her voice kept breaking, and her hands kept twitching when no one was looking. I didn't offer anything else, because the next move wasn't going to happen in this room. It was going to happen on my terms. I let them talk for another 10 minutes, all of them tossing out ideas that sounded more like prayer than strategy. Jessica was pacing by the fireplace now, muttering to herself, still somehow convinced that a Hail Mary from some family friend was going to fix her mess. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. I could make a call. The room paused. Jessica looked over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. To who, Ryan? Your old freelance clients. I pulled my phone out. No, my wealth advisor. She blinked. Your what? I just want to check something. I tapped the screen and put the call on speaker. 2 rings, then. This is Adam Fletcher. Hey, Adam, it's Ryan, I said. Quick question. If I wanted to reallocate capital for a $120 million equity buy, how fast could we pull that together? Silence hit the room like a dropped plate. Adam didn't miss a beat. Assuming no regulatory holdups, about 48 hours. It'd be roughly 6% of your active holdings, so it wouldn't impact liquidity. Jessica's head snapped toward me like she'd been slapped. I kept going. Can you confirm something else for me? The current status of my control position in Luminate Analytics, based on the original investment structure. Now she was staring at me like I'd lost my damn mind. Adam replied calmly. Yes, you retain controlling interest via Halcyon Orbit structure. 2 board seats, and executive override authority per the equity agreement executed 19 months ago. Jessica's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I stood up and held the phone out to her. You might want to hear this part from him directly. She took it like it was radioactive. Hello, she said. Adam stayed professional, tone steady. Jessica, to clarify, your company accepted a structured investment from Halcyon Orbit Ventures under terms that included a silent equity majority. That majority is ultimately held in trust by Ryan. He has maintained legal control since day one. Her hand dropped to her side. That's not possible, she whispered. No. Halcyon was a firm, a real firm. It still is, Adam said, but Ryan owns the stake behind it. Dad leaned forward, eyes darting between us. What the hell is going on? Jessica turned to me, stunned. You're telling me you were my investor. I nodded. Yeah. Since the beginning. Since the beginning. She stepped back like I'd hit her. This whole time, you let me talk to you like that. You weren't talking to me, I said. You were talking at me. Mom sat down hard on the arm of the couch, hand over her mouth. Ryan, this can't be real. I looked at her. It is? Jessica looked like her brain had short-circuited. Why would you even do that? I believed in the idea, I said. Didn't believe in the way you were running it. And I sure as hell didn't want our family wrapped up in it. She looked at Adam again, still clinging to the phone. Is this legal? Adam's voice didn't change. Fully legal. You signed the agreement. Our firm handled all compliance. Jessica handed the phone back to me like it burned. The room stayed dead silent. Dad finally spoke. I don't get it. Ryan, how long have you had that kind of money? I met his eyes. Long enough. Mom looked like her entire world had cracked in half. You never said anything. You never asked, I said. Nobody moved. Jessica sat down slowly. Her whole body slumped like she'd just been drained from the inside out. Her voice was small now. You let me build everything on your money. I nodded. Yep, and now I'm the reason it's still standing at all. Word count, 817. Target range, 760 to 840. Nobody spoke for a full minute after I hung up the call. Jessica looked like she'd fallen through the floor. Her fingers were laced in her lap, knuckles white. Mom kept staring at me like I'd just said I was moving to Mars. Dad blinked slow, as if understanding had to claw its way through 20 years of assumptions. So I broke the silence. I didn't just invest in Luminate, I said. I backed the entire Series A round through Halcyon, and when the runway started shrinking, I held it up longer than I should have, out of respect. Jessica flinched like the word hurt. I also run a systems consulting firm. We serve about 30 healthcare networks across 10 states. I have over 200 employees. I don't do apps for dentists. I build architecture for hospitals and insurance companies. Mom's mouth dropped open, but she didn't say anything. And Halcyon? That's not a random fund. I co-founded it. We manage mid-stage tech portfolios and early acquisitions. We've pulled 4 exits in the last 2 years. Uncle Ken leaned forward. Wait, so you're saying what? You're rich? I shrugged. I'm saying I built something. Quietly. On purpose. Because I didn't want this. I gestured to the room. The drama, the ego, the assumptions. Jessica's voice cracked. Then why back me at all? I looked right at her. Because I believed in the core idea. Data-driven decision models in regulated industries. That's smart, but your execution was reckless. You made it a show instead of a business. She looked down at the rug. You could have told me. No, I said. If I told you, you would have turned it into a power struggle. And I wasn't interested in proving anything. I just wanted to protect the company from burning itself down. Dad finally spoke. Why didn't you tell us? Because you already had your story written, I said. I was the kid in the basement, remember? The tinkerer. The one with no direction. It was easier to let you believe that than try to shout over it. Mom looked like she was about to cry. We just didn't understand. You didn't want to, I cut in, because it was easier to prop Jessica up if someone else was always second place. Jessica looked up at me, eyes glassy. So what happens now? I didn't sugarcoat it. You're out as CEO. Her face froze. You can stay on, I said, but only in a technical lead role. New leadership's already lined up. We're restructuring the board next week. She nodded once, stiff and silent. I didn't take pleasure in it, but I wasn't apologizing either. This isn't punishment, I added. It's accountability. Aunt Denise cleared her throat. Ryan, I think we all underestimated you. No, I said. You ignored me. There's a difference. Silence again. This time, heavier. Jessica stood slowly. I need air. She walked out the back door, leaving it swinging behind her. The rest of the family sat there like someone had unplugged the room. Dad finally said, You've done well, son. I gave a short nod. Mom looked down at her lap. I guess we all need to rethink how we define success. I didn't respond. I just stood up, stretched my legs, and grabbed my coat from the hook near the door. I'll be at the office tomorrow, I said. If she wants help adjusting, she knows where to find me. Then I left. Jessica didn't talk to me for the first 2 weeks. She showed up to the transition meetings stone-faced, gave one-word answers, and avoided eye contact like it owed her money. Every time the new CEO asked for input, she'd just nod and say, whatever's best for the company. Her pride was in pieces. You could see it in the way she walked, slower, smaller, like she couldn't find her place anymore. But to her credit, she stuck around. She kept showing up. She started taking notes. She started asking questions, not to impress anyone, just to understand. And once she stopped trying to sound like the smartest person in the room, something clicked. She got better. She actually had good instincts, buried under all that noise and ego. Once she started listening to the product team instead of trying to lead the PR strategy, she made sharp decisions, practical ones. The new leadership kept her close but gave her boundaries. No more press interviews. No more random hires just to look disruptive. She focused on the back-end systems, the data architecture. It turned out she was pretty damn good at it. 6 months in, Luminate posted its first actual profit. Real numbers, real clients. The board didn't cheer. We expected it. But she got a quiet nod from the CFO, and I saw the way her hands stopped shaking during meetings. Meanwhile, I stopped hiding. I started telling people what I really did. Not in some big announcement, but in normal conversation. I didn't dumb it down. I didn't brush it off. Turns out, once I treated my work seriously, so did everyone else. At Thanksgiving, Aunt Denise asked me about enterprise automation instead of how my little computer thing was going. Dad asked if I'd take a look at his friend's logistics company. And Mom, she just looked at me differently. Not proud exactly, more like aware. Jessica and I didn't become best friends. That was never the goal. But she never called my work a hobby again. She stopped talking down to me. And once, in a board meeting, when the CTO pitched something half-baked, she shut it down fast. That's not scalable, she said. Ryan would tell you the same. And she was right. That moment stuck with me more than any apology would have. Because it wasn't about saying sorry. It was about respect. And now I had it.